Sunday morning rain is falling. Let's go. All right. Happy Sunday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. We have so much to discuss today. So welcome to Sab's podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. If you are new, I do want to let you know we are also streaming on X and Rumble and, of course, YouTube. Ladies and gents, the weekend is winding down, but not the news. Tonight's theme is Things Just Got Real. And yeah, it really did. We have so much to get into, ladies and gents. Hold on to that theme. If you haven't had a chance to do so, please go ahead and answer that poll question that is pinned to the live chat there. Do you think we are heading towards World War III? Let's go ahead and give some shout outs to people in the chat before we dive in, ladies and gents. What is going on? I know myself. Ukraine's move is an attempt to consolidate all war efforts, the emphasis on the word attempt. Can two losing strategies metered together provide a fresh start at a winning one? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to work either. Shout out to Jason. Jason Bourne says it started in 2014. Yes, it did. What is going on? FAFO. Hello, Sabby. Thank you for covering Nolan Wells. In my opinion, it was a murder. That said, why aren't more progressive channels speaking on Nolan Wells? I don't know. I think that would be a question for them. Shout out to Anthony. Why is Ukraine involving themselves into this Iran war? Don't they got enough on their plate with Russia? Yeah, that's the question a lot of us have, ladies and gents, at this point in time. Shout out to Randy says, as to the World War III poll, didn't already start 2 years ago? Love you, Sabby. What is going on, Keith? Interesting debate I just watched between Kim Iverson and John Strand. Lots of strategically running candidates placed everywhere. Shout out to New York Varsity. Check it out as I break it down. It's my birthday. Happy birthday to New York Varsity. Let's go ahead and give him a round of applause. Shout out to the birthday dude. Shout out. Happy birthday. Greetings, Anne says, I feel so bad for the Ukrainian people. I know they don't want to get involved in this war. That has nothing to do with them. I know that's right. Greetings, having coffee, says Mystery. Shout out to CBC Voters, says happy Sunday, Sabby and Eric. Greetings, Cloudness says happy Sunday fun day to Sabs and Eric, plus everyone in the chat, B1 fam. Greetings, Pura says Zelensky is freer. Shout out to Megan. The doomsday clock is currently closer to midnight than it has ever been. Greetings, Volvo says, hello, Cookie. Hello. Shout out to Sandra says, Americans are currently living with World War III with ICE in our near our schools and communities, trafficking, kidnapping, essaying girls and killing men, women, and probably soon children. Shout out to Doug says, hello. Greetings, James says, peace. Greetings, Hannah said, Ukraine hit Iran boat. WTF. Yeah, we're going to get into it. Shout out to Kinman says, love Sabby. Greetings, little goddess said, happy Sunday fun day. Keep cool, everyone. It's a scorcher out here. And greetings, Wade says, Pelosi already had her breakfast martini. Well, ladies and gents, I told you, we do have quite a bit to get into. I do want to make sure I give a shout out to patrons, which I think I forgot to pull this up. So give me just a second. And there we go. Okay, ladies and gents. We, of course, want to go ahead and give a shout out to the patrons. They are keeping the lights on around us, ladies and gents. So shout out to all of them. If you are interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories for you, ladies and gents. We have the ultimate. We have Sabinators. Don't forget about the Sabsters. And I think the most popular group here is the Sabbies. A lot of people seem to want to be a Sabby. And last but not least, members. Thank you guys so much for your support. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen throughout the show. Yeah. Give it up for the patrons. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah. Okay. All right, ladies and gents. So much to discuss. Again, if you're just joining us, please make sure you answer that poll question that is pinned to the live chat. We'll reveal the results of the poll at the end of the show. Let's go ahead and show that thumbnail so you can see what we are discussing tonight. Like I told you, it has been a crazy weekend. Not a slow one for news. That is for sure. Tonight, ladies and gents, we are discussing, yeah, you read that correctly. Ukraine actually just hit an Iranian ship. This is not good, ladies and gents. When we talk about escalation in the Middle East, Ukraine right now is dealing with their own war, right? Ukraine is still fighting with Russia, and now they are attacking an Iranian vessel. We're going to get into all of that and what Iran has said about this and what Zelensky just said about this, because Iran is not playing around. We're also going to dive into the recent attack on Aramco, which is this large oil facility in Saudi Arabia. Yemen just attacked that oil facility. And this is huge, ladies and gents. Like, this is what I mean about this escalation. So we're going to get into all of that. We're also going to discuss, if you did not see it, the White House Correspondents' Dinner just happened, and Donald Trump is getting ratioed by his own supporters. We're going to show you what some of them said after this speech of his, which was crazy, man. It was just wild. Like, I don't know who told him this would be a good speech, but we're going to highlight some of the things that he said during that, including some of the jokes that he tried to make that just fell flat. Hey, it's Sunday. We got to have some funny stuff today. We got to have something funny here to talk about. We're also going to discuss Nancy Pelosi, and this is connected to Wesley Bell. Nancy Pelosi decided to make her way to Missouri to support and endorse and advocate for Wesley Bell, who is running for re-election. He is the one who stole Cori Bush's seat. Cori Bush is running again to try to get that seat back. But the big bombshell is we have an expose here about Wesley Bell and who he is actually connected to. And it's not just AIPAC. This story should be all over corporate news, but it's not. And I'm going to tell you why. So we're going to get into that. We're also going to give you an update here about Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell, where are you? Many people are asking. It's been a while since we heard anything, since we saw that photo of him allegedly in the hospital. Well, we have new information now about Mitch McConnell. And last but not least, there is a new report that just dropped about the US dollar. And this is all, we're going to connect it to that new out of reach cost of living report, which just came out for 2026, ladies and gentlemen, the purchasing power of the US dollar is declining very quickly, and everybody needs to pay attention to this. So that's what we're going to discuss tonight. If you haven't had a chance to do so, ladies and gentlemen, do me a solid and smash that like button. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Again, the theme tonight is things just got real. Just got real. So hold on to your seats. Grab some popcorn for tonight's show, because crazy things are happening. Let's start off with the first story. Wesley Bell, who is running for re-election in the House of Representatives, apparently is connected to some people that you probably should know about. And I'm not just talking about the pro-Israel lobby. We've talked about that with Wesley Bell. I'm talking about the recent bombshell about his campaign manager, which should give everyone reason to pause. To go along with this, Nancy Pelosi, who announced her retirement earlier this year, decided to go to Missouri and campaign for Wesley Bell. Let's get into all of this, folks, because I'm going to prove a point about this, right? So that was Cori Bush's seat. Cori Bush was booted out by AIPAC, a lot of money from the pro-Israel lobby. And of course, they were even smart enough to put up someone against her who was also Black. See, this is how they move. They found a sucker, and that sucker is Wesley Bell. That's how they got Cori Bush out of there. Now, one of the other complaints that did come through was that some of her constituents at that time said that they didn't really see her, that she was spending most of her time in DC, and they felt as though she was, I guess, spending more time focusing on other issues instead of what they wanted. But this was what Cori Bush said when she lost her seat. Just a reminder.
Pulling me away from my position as Congresswoman. All you did was take some of the strings off. Let's be clear. 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 Let's talk about what it really is. Because see, now I don't have to worry about some strings that I have attached, and as much as I love my job. But all they did was radicalize me, and so now they need to be afraid. See, now they about to see this other Cori, this other side, because let me say this. I just grew up a whole lot more over the last few weeks. Just grew up a whole different way. And so what they are about to get, they think. So the thing is this. The thing is this. I don't think that anything, there is nothing that happens in my life that happens in vain. So if this happened, it's because it was meant to happen. And let me say, it's because of the work that I need to do. And let me say this. AIPAC, I'm coming to tear your kingdom down.
So just a reminder there, when Cori Bush lost her seat, and again, it was just one of these other examples where AIPAC threw a lot of money into that race to get her out, because she was one of the first, I actually think she was the first person that came out and criticized, what Israel was doing to the Palestinian people. So they came after her. They came after Jamal Bowman. You notice they didn't come after AOC. See, I pay attention to these things. I pay attention to it. Now, let me explain to you how this is all connected with Wesley Bell. Nancy Pelosi was just in Missouri to help Wesley Bell. And I'm going to show you what she said. But before I show you what she said, I want to prove a point. During the pandemic, there was a strategy called Force the Vote. That strategy came directly from the DSA handbook. I didn't have a show at that point in time, but I was sitting at home watching all of this transpire. There were 2 votes. Remember, we were talking about the 2-vote thing that they do in Congress? There were 2 votes. During the first vote, Cori Bush was the only one of the squad that was willing to say, okay, maybe let's move forward and try to like force the vote. But then when that second vote came around, she decided not to force the vote against Nancy Pelosi. Now, Cori Bush had said that she got something for her district, that she was offered something from Nancy Pelosi for her district. The reason why I'm bringing this up again is to prove a point. Cori Bush decided not to force the vote against Nancy Pelosi for Medicare for All as Speaker of the House. So let me show you how Nancy Pelosi decided to repay Cori Bush.
A huge name in national politics was in Ferguson today, campaigning in one of the hottest Missouri primary races on the August 4th ballot. Nancy Pelosi campaigned for Congressman Wesley Bell in his rematch against former Congresswoman Cori Bush. And it's expected to be a close race once again. That's why we saw that very prominent, longtime Democrat and former House Speaker in town. And after the event, Ms. Pelosi was asked why St. Louis area voters should choose Bell over Bush. This time around, she argued that one candidate is focused on substance while the other is focused on making headlines.
I'm not here to talk against anyone else. I just will say that when we had Joe Biden as president and a Democratic majority in the Congress, we had the opportunity to do great things, and we did. Mr. Bell comes in as a effective from the start legislator. He comes there not to rant, but to legislate.
Did you hear what she just said? So I stand, look, I stand vindicated, because here's the thing, okay? After choosing not to force the vote against Nancy Pelosi for Medicare for All, this is how Nancy Pelosi decided to repay Cori Bush. They would have been better off just forcing the vote against Nancy Pelosi for Medicare for All. Do you see what I'm saying? There's no sense in going along with the Democrat leadership, which they're all establishment. All the leaders are establishment. There is no sense in going along with them and doing their bidding when they're going to stab you in the back any damn way. She didn't go out to Missouri to advocate for Cori. She went out there to advocate for Wesley Bell. And then she goes on to say that basically Wesley Bell is not there to rant. You see how they talk about you? After you sat up there and you bent over for them and you tried to say, oh, I'm going to go along and do what they want me to do. You see how they treat you anyway? That's the problem. So she basically is saying that Wesley Bell just nods his head and takes orders and does not complain. Wesley Bell in Congress puts his head down and just does the work. That's really what she's saying. They don't really want someone there that's going to complain. They don't want someone there that's going to raise their damn voice. Now let's move on to Wesley, because something came out about him. And I'm not talking about just AIPAC. We all know he take money from AIPAC, right? They put him in there. He's an AIPAC stooge. What you may not know is who his campaign manager is. And this came out over the weekend. This is crazy. Ryan Grimm said this is absolutely wild. Wesley Bell's campaign manager has been attending the Veiled Prophet Ball for years. Notorious event. So let me tell you who his campaign manager is, and let me tell you a little bit here about this ball. Actually, let me keep it this way because it's closer. Somebody went through her Facebook page. It turns out that Wesley Bell's campaign manager is in the Veiled Prophet. Her and her family have been attending their white supremacist ball for decades. She got a whole album on her Facebook called Veiled Prophet Ball. And there are photos of her dad going year after year. This is the same secret society that actress Ellie Kemper was canceled for in 2021 after being crowned their KKK princess. She publicly apologized, admitting the veiled prophet is unquestionably racist, elitist, and sexist. The woman that you see right here in the picture, that is Wesley Bell's campaign manager. And these are pictures of that ball, the veiled prophet ball. That is a white supremacist ball. Wesley Bell's campaign manager is a part of a white supremacist ball. You cannot make this up. And that's who Nancy Pelosi just went to Missouri to support. So you see, when you go to Wesley Bell and you confront him, as many are doing, about the genocide, and you're like, oh, he just pushes them out. He got security to push people out. Some people are filing a lawsuit against his security team because they were injured as a result of this. And you don't understand how Wesley Bell can just walk away and not care about the genocide. Wesley Bell is another actor, okay? If politics didn't work out for him, hell, he could have played the role of Norbit. He could have just did that shit. Eddie Murphy could have just been Wesley Bell. He could have just played that role. He already got the look. So do you see how you even have Democrat politicians who are willing to go along with white supremacy because they just want to make a political career? Now let's go on now, because this is blowing up all over social media. Ryan also shared this. Bell's campaign manager, her name is Jordan Blaze, interestingly used to work for Trudy Bush Valentine, who Sarah El Sirota exposed as having been a belle of that ball. You see how it's just all in the system? Now, The Intercept, this was exposed years ago. Missouri Democrats' new Senate candidate was crowned Queen of the Whites Only Ball. Here's the pictures here. This is all who Wesley Bell is in community with. Trudy Bush, she's the heir to the Anheuser-Busch fortune in Missouri. She was crowned Queen of Love and Beauty at the controversial Veiled Prophet Ball. Let's go on here. The 1977 ceremony marked a special anniversary for the Veiled Prophet Organization, a secret society of Missouri elites dedicated to maintaining white supremacy and unchecked corporate power. It was founded by former Confederate officers in the wake of the Great Railroad Strike in 1877. Let's go on here. See the pictures? It would have been difficult for Bush, who is now Bush Valentine, and a new Democratic candidate for Senate for Missouri, to avoid learning about the controversy. At the time Bush won the title, Black and Jewish people weren't allowed to join the organization. That wouldn't come until 1979. In 1972, 5 years prior to the Bush crowning, activist Jenna Scott entered the ball and unmasked the Veiled Prophet. Scott's car was later bombed, and her house was vandalized. One of the protesters in 1977 was arrested for using a disabling chemical spray at the affair the prior year. And at Bush's crowning, there were extensive and extraordinary security measures. So this woman, Jordan Blaze, or Blase, however you pronounce her name, this woman right here, okay, there she is with her daddy. She is Wesley Bell's campaign manager, and she worked for this woman, heir of Anheuser-Busch. This should be headline news all over corporate media. This just goes to show you what did I tell you? What would I tell you? You can't just point at the Republican Party, even when it comes to this issue. Wesley Bell don't give a damn. He just wants to make a political career, so he don't care who he sell out to. You mean to tell me Wesley Bell didn't know this? Come on now. This article here was written by Sarah Sirota in 2022. What did I tell you? She was also 40 under 40. Jordan was one of the 40 under 40. This woman was celebrated. There's a name, Jordan Blasé, or Blaze, however you pronounce her. You see it? You see how they were celebrating her? Now, we all know that Wesley Bell takes a lot of money from AIPAC. They are loading up money in this race. Right now, recent polls show that Cori Bush is ahead. But I want to prove a point because this person here is correct. Skin color has no corner on integrity or being a sellout for a seat at the power table. Because what this goes to show you is this. If the money is right and you want the money and you want the fame and you want that career, even some of your own black folk will sell out for the money, for the career. The same way you saw the headlines about Graham Plattner all over corporate media, which many of us tried to warn you guys about Graham Plattner prior to those assault allegations. Why aren't you seeing headlines all over corporate media about Wesley Bell? Where's Jake Tapper? Where are you at? Where are you? Where's CNN? Where's MS Now? The way you guys were all over Graham Plattner, why aren't you all over Wesley Bell? Huh? Because he's their guy. Because he's pro-Israel. Because he's pro-establishment. That's why they're not going to say anything about Wesley Bell. When you go back and look, we'll come back to this part here. When you come back and you look at this tweet that Ryan Grimm shared, this tweet has over 420,000 views and 7,000 likes. If I saw it, I'm pretty sure corporate media saw it. But they ain't saying nothing about this, hon. Nothing about it, because he's their guy. Wesley Bell's campaign manager is a white supremacist. But corporate media is out there coming after Cori Bush because she supports Palestinians being treated like human beings, because she's against genocide. They're coming after her, but they are very silent about Wesley Bell. Here's something that Cori Bush mentioned here. See, people forget this. Fact check. Wesley Bell said Hamas is a terror state. There is no country in the world called Hamas. Wesley Bell has been propped up by millions of dollars in funding from AIPAC, taking lavish AIPAC funding trips to Israel. He stood for a photo op with Israeli President Isaac Herzog and is a sitting member of the Foreign Affairs Committee. It's honestly just sad that he either doesn't know this or is intentionally trying to divide the Muslim and Jewish communities to prop up his own political career. It's the latter, Corey. He knows. Wesley Bell was one of those 11 freshman Democrats that took that AIPAC trip to Israel. There he is right there. You see him? Him and this other guy over here, the only two black people there that went. They were a part of that group that went to Israel, those freshman Democrats. So why would Wesley Bell care about the genocide of the Palestinian people when his campaign manager is a damn white supremacist? You got elite societies all over the place. People look at Missouri and they're like, oh, Missouri is the show me state. And oh, Missouri, it's not one of the wealthy states. That don't mean they don't have these wealthy secret societies. Those are everywhere. So Wesley Bell is willing to give a pass because he wants a political career. The sellouts sell out. Things just got real. This should be headlines everywhere about this. You have a black politician in Congress who is pro-Israel, who's taken over now $13 million from AIPAC, whose campaign manager is a damn white supremacist. If I was Cori Bush, if I was in that position, I would eat that up right now. I would have a campaign ad out tomorrow, letting everybody know Wesley Bell does not care about the constituents, the black constituents. That's predominantly black district, black constituents in St. Louis. He's working with white supremacists. Can you trust Wesley Bell? Boom, campaign ad. That's what I would do. Just like that. If Cori's campaign is not using this to their advantage, I don't know what they're doing. Because playing nice ain't going to work. Right now, the polls show that is a very close race. She's in the lead, but it's close. So this is one of those complaints I had about Bernie in 2020. I felt like Bernie was trying to be too nice. Joe Biden is my friend. Nah. There was a number of things you could have thrown out about Joe Biden. Joe Biden was an easy target to take down. Out of all the people on that stage, everything that Joe Biden did, Joe Biden implemented legislation that hurt the black community. He was an easy target. Playing nice don't work. Not in politics. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Shout out to Mike Magdy for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Mike a big whoop whoop. Shout out to Chris. What a heck of a time to be alive. I feel you, Chris. I feel you, dude. I told you guys, crazy stuff happened over the weekend. Shout out to Kenman. Norbit takes a lot of money from AIPAC. Yeah. Yep. Thank you. This one as well. Pelosi's favorite movie is Norbit. Thank you, Kevin. Why does anyone care what that senile old bat Nancy says anymore by now? Supported every war, AFAC, oppose Medicare for all and free college. Also, Nancy Pelosi's husband just recently had another car accident. Shouldn't Nancy Pelosi be at home in San Francisco taking care of her husband? Shout out to Lisa for the super sticker. And thank you, Measured Man. They will give you a seat at the table, but you are not allowed to read the menu, order, or eat. There you go. And thank you, AR. Cori Bush needs to come out with attack ads, blowing the whistle on Wesley Bell's campaign manager. If it were me, that's what I would do. I would go all in. Go all in on Norbit. All in. All right. Let's go all in on this US dollar. If you haven't had a chance to do so, ladies and gents, please smash that like button. Thank you. And let's keep it moving and grooving. Okay. A bombshell report was just announced about the US dollar. Everyone take note. We've been talking about the US having a decline, but now we have the numbers to show it. This just came out. The US dollar has lost 30% of its purchasing power over the last 6 years. Hold on to that thought. 30%. I want everybody to just take that in for just a second. Okay. Last 6 years. So that means that the US dollar is not worth what it was in even 2024, or not 2024, excuse me, and even like 2019 compared to what it is now. It's not even worth the same as 2019. In fact, this gentleman here, he did a pretty good breakdown. Shout out to Andrew here. The purchasing power of $100 since the Federal Reserve was created. 1913, $100. 1923, $57.89. 1933, $76.15. 1943, $57.23. 1953, $37. 1963, $32. 1973, $22. 1983, $9. See this big drop here? 1973, the US dollar was worth $22. This is the purchasing power. But come 1983, it quickly drops to $9.94. 1993, a little over $6. 2003, a little over $5. 2013, a little over $4. And 2026 right now, the US dollar, $2.99. The US dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power, according to Andrew. Guys, this is absolutely insane. The last time you can say people probably had it good was 1973. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why some people say in the Fed. This is why you'll hear some people advocating for that. Some people have it as a part of their campaign platform in the Fed. Do you see this? It's not your neighbors. No, no, no. Remember who we told you, who's at the top. Now, let me show you how this all basically translates into this recent report that was just announced this year. The Out of Reach report, again, this is released every July. Every year I show you this, the cost continues to increase. This report here shows you how much you need to make to afford a 2-bedroom apartment rental. Just 2-bedroom, okay? They also have 1-bedroom. Take hold of the fact that the US dollar just lost 30% of its purchasing power, and then pay attention to this. We're going to go to the first expensive state here, California. California has the highest housing wage in the country. This has not changed since I've been covering this. However, what has changed is that it continues to increase. Now it says that in California, you need to make $52.79 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. If you look a little further, it says that if you make minimum wage in California, you would have to work 125 hours a week. Does everybody get it now? Let's look at a couple others as well. This is what I've been warning people about. By the way, it's not just the blue states. I'm going to warn you here again about Florida. This is another one that's been creeping up. Florida is now in the top 10. The first year I covered this, they were not in the top 10. They are now. In Florida, you would need to make $37.93 an hour to afford an average 2-bedroom rental. If you make minimum wage in Florida, you have to work 108 hours a week. That's a red state. Now, I want to prove a point with Florida. Do you want to know why Florida is now in the top 10? One of the reasons? Because too many people have moved there, right? So when people say if the cost of living is too high, just move down south, just move to Michigan. That's a big one I've been hearing people say. Well, what happens is when you have an influx of people moving into one place. That obviously wreaks havoc on supply and demand. So if the supply is not keeping up with the demand, the cost of living is going to increase. That is what is happening to Florida. And they are not alone. Texas continues to creep up as well. Texas is 25th. Some of you, I think, live in Texas. You need to make $29.93 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental in Texas. If you make minimum wage there, you'll have to work 165 hours a week to afford that. You see, guys, it's all over the damn place. Virginia, 15th, $33.37 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. If you make minimum wage, you'll have to work over 105 hours a week. Part of the expensiveness with Virginia has to do with the proximity to Washington, D.C. Anywhere near D.C. is expensive. I can tell you that from growing up. My parents always, my parents are from Baltimore. They always explain this to me. Anywhere near D.C. is going to be expensive. Maryland is 11th. In Maryland, you need $37.60 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom apartment. If you make minimum wage there, you'll have to work over 100 hours a week to afford that. You see why even the fight for 15 doesn't get you where you need to get? Let's go to New Jersey. I'm pointing out some of the higher ones first. Fifth highest housing wage, $43.89 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. If you make minimum wage, you have to work over 110 hours a week. Let's keep creeping up. New York is 4th. Part of this is due to the fact of New York City. $48.46 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental in the state of New York. You have to work 121 hours a week to afford that 2-bedroom rental if you make minimum wage. Is everybody noticing a trend? Okay, well, we'll get to it in a second. Connecticut is 9th, $38.98 an hour. 92 hours a week if you make minimum wage to afford a 2-bedroom. Massachusetts, I knew we would be here. We're always here. 3rd, and I can attest to this. In Massachusetts, you need to make $48.59 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. If you make minimum wage here, and we have $15 minimum wage, you need to work 130 hours a week. Does everybody see what I'm pointing out? $15 an hour minimum wage is not enough to live off of in this country. We are way behind. The wages in this country over the past, I'd say 3, maybe 4 decades have not adjusted for inflation. And then to go along with that, we are now seeing that the dollar is losing its purchasing power. It lost 30% of it this year in the damn Fed. We'll go on to show you a couple more, and then I have another breakdown for you. Another one I want to point your attention to, Colorado. Colorado is 12th. I don't know why Colorado is so expensive. I've never been there. I don't know. Maybe Aspen might be part of it. $36 an hour and $44 to afford a 2-bedroom rental. 96 hours a week if you make minimum wage if you want that 2-bedroom rental. Now I'm going to prove a point, okay? Let's look at Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is the cheapest territory, or I guess you can stay in. In Puerto Rico, you only have to make $11.57 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental. You'll have to work 44 hours a week if you make minimum wage to afford that. But here's the problem. Puerto Rico, you may not have as many job options there. Hawaii, also absolutely ridiculous. A lot of that has to do with the weather. They have the 2nd highest housing wage, $49.30 an hour to afford a 2-bedroom rental there. You'll have to work 123 hours a week if you make minimum wage in Hawaii. Hawaii also has a pretty large homeless population, from what I understand too. So another thing to keep in mind is that when you're looking at the highest housing wage, you have to remember that in certain metropolitan areas, it's even higher. If I look at New York City metropolitan area and not just the state of New York, it's going to be higher. If I look at Los Angeles, if I look at San Francisco, it is going to be higher than the state average. This is important to know. Okay? We have a problem. Let me show you something else. I want to go to one of the states that's a lower cost of living, like Alabama. Alabama ranks 47th. The minimum wage in Alabama is $7.25 an hour. However, the 2-bedroom housing wage is $20.91 an hour. The point that I'm making is this. Even in a state like Alabama, where the cost of living is much more affordable when you compare it to some of these other states, you still can't make a living off of $7.25 an hour. You still need $20 an hour. Let's look at another one. Florida. Again, just want to show you a difference. Their minimum wage is at $14 an hour right now, right? They're getting to 15. However, when you look at what is needed for a 2-bedroom apartment, you actually need to make $37.93 an hour. Ladies and gentlemen, this is why you are seeing so many people that are in their 30s and even some in their 40s still having roommates. This is not the American dream. This is an American nightmare. A lot of the politicians don't want you to see this. They don't talk about this out of reach housing report. They don't want you to see it. Why do you think Marco Rubio and them are trying so hard to crack down on we're coming after the commies or we're coming after socialism? Why do you think they're doing that? Because more people, especially younger people, are starting to realize they can't afford to live here. Why do you think this year is a teller? Why do you think more and more Americans are becoming expats? Why are you seeing more Americans move to Thailand, China, Portugal? Why do you think that's happening? Look on YouTube. You would be surprised how many people, how many American expats live in Thailand. The US dollar goes a lot further in Thailand than it does in the United States. You can go to Thailand and live like a king or a queen. One of my relatives moved to Thailand years ago. He said he would never come back to the US. And they are living good there. I'm talking, we'll talk about that next time when I get into that expat episode. We're going to get into that. And we're going to talk about how good people are living in, Americans are living in Thailand, where I'm talking like they moved to Thailand and they got condos or they have a full house that they could not afford here in the United States. Things that we need to pay attention to. Let's look at South Carolina, since that's all up in the news right now. I lived in South Carolina. When I lived there, the minimum wage was $7.25. That was years ago, and it's still $7.25 an hour. I had to have 2 jobs when I lived in South Carolina. Even in South Carolina, which has a lower cost of living than Massachusetts, you still need to make $25.99 an hour. So does everybody get it? Most of our money is spent towards housing. I don't know about you, but that's how it is for me. My largest expense is housing. So if you're not even making what you need to make to pay for your rent, then you're already behind. And if you're already behind, how are you going to get ahead if your wages are not increasing? Yeah. You're right. The cost of living is pathetic. I'm telling you, this is why, and we'll get into it on Tuesday, about the number of Americans that chose to leave the US and they're living so much better economically in other countries. Now, everybody can't do that. Everyone doesn't have the opportunity to do it. But if you have the opportunity to do it, I say check it out. And if you don't like it, you can always come back home, especially the case for retirees. More retirees are choosing, people retiring from the military or from federal government jobs are choosing to go live abroad. Now let's look at what happened last year. Just to show you how it's increased, right? You see, last year, California was at $49.61 an hour. But if we go back to our map this year, it's now at $52 an hour. Let's go back. Last year, you can see Florida was at $37.27 an hour. This year, Florida is at $37.93 an hour. So a little bit of an uptick for Florida. But the point that I'm trying to make is every year this report comes out, it continues to increase. This is insane. And like Shama Sawant, for example, fought for the fight for 15 in Washington. They're now over, I think it's like $22 an hour in Washington state. And I was talking about this with her recently. Washington state is 7th. You need $39.84 an hour. Guys, there's no, I don't know a way to say this nicely. This is something that voting alone is not going to fix. You get me? Okay. Because the billionaire class, guess what? They can afford to live in any of these states. As long as they are controlling things, we're fucked. And I hate to put it to you this way, but for those of us who are already where we are, you know, we might be okay. But the younger generation, these kids are screwed. And to show you how they're screwed, I don't know how we got that one back. Oh, I think I did that. I think we got to go to the next part. Eric, we should be going to the student loans part. I want to show you guys what was just said recently. And this needs to give everybody pause. More than 9 million student loan borrowers are now in default.
The number of borrowers defaulting on their student loans has jumped dramatically. As of March 2026, more than 9 million students are in default. Data shows more than 4.2 million borrowers defaulted between April 2025 and March of 2026. The most dramatic increase was in 2024 after a Biden-era freeze on loan payments ended after the pandemic. And
we'll pause here for just a second. Let me go back to that graph. Okay. We have over 9 million student loan borrowers in the United States right now that are in default. Not debt, default. What that means is that they can't pay their student loans. And when your those federal student loans, if that goes in the default, your credit is fucked. I know it's Sunday. I watch the language a little bit. But listen, that is a hard place to come back from. You're screwed. You know why they're in default? Because they can't pay it. You know why they can't pay it? Because they're not making a living wage. You know why they're not making a living wage? Because capitalism has run amok. Because the billionaire class are taking all the profits and leaving just a little bit of crumbs for the people at the bottom. That's why. And when you see that the US dollar just lost 30% of its purchasing power, there's no getting around that. This is what I was saying when I said the US empire is in decline. It's not just because of the wars, but when you see our government sending all this money abroad or choosing to increase the defense budget, we are in hell. And a lot of people aren't even talking about it. Let's continue on a little bit more here.
the pandemic. And another surge could be ahead after the Trump administration ended the SAVE plan, which impacts millions more borrowers. Let's bring in Danielle Douglas-Gabriel to explain what's happening. She's a national higher education reporter for the Washington Post. Danielle, good morning. Help us understand what is driving these numbers.
So thanks for having me. And, we're seeing this spike in defaults because all of the protections that were afforded borrowers because of the pandemic are completely over. As you mentioned, there was a 3.5-year-long pause on federal student loans. And then there was a 12-month grace period after that to kind of ease borrowers back into repayment. The trouble is a lot of people didn't know when that ended. I spoke to so many borrowers who were like, I didn't know payments went fully back into effect. And a lot of people were missing payments. You saw a lot of credit scores dropping. But you also have a lot of folks now who simply cannot afford their monthly payment as the cost of living has increased. So there are folks who are struggling. There are people who don't really know what to do. And so we're seeing that in the numbers here.
So most of your money is going towards cost of living, right? Now, part of this is because, those student loan, pauses did help people. But guys, the pause is only avoiding the inevitable, which is that the American empire is falling down. Empires don't always last. Rome is a great example of this. Eventually, you are going to fall. That pause, while many enjoyed it, including myself, it was only avoiding the inevitable. We're screwed. And I'm going to show you who's not screwed, though, because we're going to make the connection. This guy. Because you see, this was back in 2021. I shared this. And I said, so we can bail out Jeff Bezos, but we can't cancel student loan debt, which, by the way, Biden could have canceled all of it. The Senate was preparing a $10 billion bailout fund for Jeff Bezos' space fund. And the reason why was because of corruption. Billionaires get all different types of subsidies from the government, but they want to tell you that if you ask for those things, that's a handout or it's waste or it's abuse. How many times does the U.S. government go in and bail out billionaires and corporations, regardless of if the president is a Democrat or Republican, because Obama bailed out Wall Street? When do they bail you out, though? So everybody wake up, okay? Jeff Bezos failed in this venture, and the U.S. government was ready to bail him out. But they tell you, oh, well, good luck. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. You should have went to college. I did go to college. Oh, well, then you should have majored in something that was going to give you an actual job. I was a computer science major. Oh, well, then why are you in debt? Because I had student loans. Oh, well, you shouldn't have taken out student loans. Well, I couldn't go to college if I didn't have student loans because my parents don't have the money to send me to college. Oh, well, then you shouldn't have gone to college. But I thought you just told me I should have gone to college. They have had you blaming each other for the longest time, for too damn long. And the inevitable is happening and you can't avoid it. The US dollar is losing its purchasing power. It is falling and it's been falling apparently since the 1970s. And a lot of this also goes back to the Fed. So that gentleman was correct when he said the Fed caused a lot of this. In the damn Fed. Things just got real. The dollar is losing its value. This is part of the reason also why, some of the BRICS countries are looking at other avenues. They know we're heading down. Do we? So instead of us pointing fingers at each other, let's make sure, ladies and gentlemen, that we always take it back to the real problem. It's not your neighbor who's making $7.25 an hour. It's not your neighbor that took out student loans. It's not your neighbor that is trying to figure out how they're going to pay their rent because they just got laid off. It's not your fucking neighbor. The problem is the people at the top and the US government that allows them to get away with this type of abuse and then bails them out. So the way that you fix this, and I say it again, you are not going to fix this just by voting alone. You're not. We have to have a movement, a real movement with hundreds of thousands of people out in the street demanding more and better, demanding what we deserve. If the US government can have a defense budget that's over what, $800 trillion at this point in time, you mean to tell me they can't make sure that you can be paid a living wage? Part of that movement has to be an end to corruption. Billionaires don't like that word. Think about that for a second. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Did I end up cussing again? I'm sorry. Thank you, Ira. Add insult to injury. Douglas McGregor said China reverted back to the golden standard and backed the yuan with gold on July 24th. Russia and China no longer use SWIFT. USD and sanctions mean nothing. Everybody see it now? Thailand looking better and better. Thank you, Roger. Repeal the 1913 Federal Reserve Act and replace it with a national infrastructure bank. Article 1, Section 8, Clause 1 grants coin mintage to Congress. This is true. They can mint a coin. Thank you for this one, Roger. For New York City, it's over $55 an hour. For Long Island suburbs, over $52 an hour. And for Santa Cruz, California, over $81 an hour. The Santa Cruz part is because of the tech industry, by the way. All those tech bros that built those startups there, that's how you get to that over $81 an hour that you need to make. Thank you, Hoops, who's been a member for 23 months. This must be the freedom everyone was just celebrating 250 years of. Yeah. Thanks, Measured Man. Exactly. Both of my sons stayed with me until one was 26 and 32. I made them pay rent. And when they bought their first home, I gave them rent as a home warming gift. I saved for them. There you go. Thank you, Kevin. Mike Jones, expat British Army, now in Russia, joining the Marines to fight Ukraine. Substack, foreign agent intel. There we go. Thank you, Roger. Decommodify housing, removing housing from the speculative market. Public bank. $45 minimum wage, provide mom and pop shops, worker co-ops, permanent tax subsidies, cover 85 to 100% of labor costs. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, man. Say it with me. It's not your neighbor. It's not your neighbor. All right, quick announcement, and then we're going to get on to this Iran story, which is wild as hell. Just a reminder, guys, we are doing our annual back to school donation event. It is that time of year. We're trying to get to 2,500 if we can. We are doing this August 15th, ladies and gents. It's going to be at Torchlight in Roxbury at 12 p.m. We're going to donate school supplies, host games for students, and provide lunch. Please help donate if you can. If you guys can help me out, that I really would appreciate that. I'm going to go ahead and share the link here in the chat. This is for my Boston Mutual Aid organization. So this is an event we do every year. So we're going to try to give back to the kids here. That's probably our most popular event, is that one. Because even school supplies, like, they're requesting so much more now. It's crazy. All right, ladies and gents, do me a solid and smash that like button and answer that poll if you haven't had a chance to do so, because we are getting into the next story and that poll is connected to that. Let's keep going. The theme is things just got real. Things just got real in the Middle East because now Ukraine, of all countries, decided to attack an Iranian vessel. Not exaggerating. Yes, you heard me correctly. Let's get into it. This is the craziest news that came through over the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. More escalation happening here in the Middle East.
Iran has summoned Ukraine's diplomatic chief of mission after an attack on one of its commercial vessels in the Caspian Sea. Tehran says one sailor was killed and another injured in the Ukrainian attack. Iran is accusing Kyiv of trying to expand a war beyond its borders.
Pause here for a second. I just want you to see the distance between the two. Here's Ukraine over here. Here's the Caspian Sea, and here is Iran. You see how close Iran is to Ukraine? Okay. Has Zelensky lost his damn mind? So Zelensky is fighting a war with Russia right now. You can't even beat that war, which many of us told you. Many of us told you there's no way Ukraine can actually beat Russia. You can't even beat Russia. But here you are striking an Iranian vessel? This is insane.
But Ukraine says it was targeting Russian vessels carrying Iran-linked military cargo. President Volodymyr Zelensky also says Russia is assisting Iran in its military campaign in the Middle East.
Pause. So that's a damn lie. They knew damn well. They know which countries the ships belong to, guys. This is a lie. They know damn well that was an Iranian ship. 2, let's say that is the case. Let's say that Russia was assisting Iran or whatever. That they say, oh, well, Russia is assisting Iran or whatever. That's none of his damn business. That you have nothing to do with that. Worry about your own war. The weapons that Ukraine is using to attack that Iranian ship, that came from the United States government. So I'm not stupid. I wasn't born yesterday. Let me tell you what I think is really going down here, okay? I believe, because Zelensky wants to join NATO, I believe that Zelensky is trying to escalate this so that we do go into a World War III, because Ukraine can't beat Russia. So Ukraine's like, let me strike and attack this Iranian ship. So then Iran will strike us back, which they have not, by the way. Iran will strike us back. And then this will be the way of getting the other NATO countries involved, because now we would be officially at a World War III. That's no mistake. They know what the ships are. So I don't know. And some people still go around flying their Ukrainian flags and stuff like that. You have to understand that Zelensky is a corrupt leader. He's not worried about helping the people of Ukraine. And he had some damn nerve to come over here and to strike an Iranian ship.
Від початку липня.
Since the beginning of July, we have observed Russia conducting intensive satellite surveillance of the Gulf states and the U.S. military facilities located there. These satellite images are subsequently passed on to Iran. At the same time, there is a clear correlation between Russia's satellite imagery and Iranian strikes, both before attacks to support their planning and after attacks to assess the damage inflicted.
So in a statement, the Iranian foreign...
Pause. That has nothing to do with Zelensky. That has nothing to do with Ukraine. Whatever is or is not going on between Iran and Russia has nothing to do with Vladimir or whatever, Zelensky. It has nothing to do with him. The point that I'm trying to get you to understand is that, guys, Zelensky is working with Israel. They are on the same side as Israel. It was a couple weeks ago, I announced to you that Zelensky decided to send Ukrainian troops to Israel. That was to fight against Iran. So he was sending soldiers in Ukraine, which they're running out of people to fight against Russia. He was sending Ukrainian soldiers to Israel to fight against Iran. And also, I believe, to continue this genocide against the Palestinian people. Do you get what I'm saying? Zelensky is a Zionist. Zelensky supports Israel. Don't be mistaken. Now, Iran did issue a statement here, so I want to get to that.
To assess the damage inflicted.
So in a statement, the Iranian Foreign Ministry said the Ukrainian regime's attack on the Iranian commercial vessel in the Caspian Sea, which was explicitly acknowledged by the head of that regime, is a sign of the continuation of the Ukrainian regime's irrational and hostile approach toward the Islamic Republic of Iran. All right, Al Jazeera's Tawhid Asadi joins me live from Tehran. So Tawhid, I mean, are the Iranians concerned here that Ukrainian strikes might become a bit more common, or do they see this as kind of a one-off isolated incident?
Well, indeed, this is just for the first time that we have been witnessing such an incident, but there is no small spot of hesitation, at least from the strongest messages of condemnation that we see from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, that there is such a concern about potentiality for repetition of such sort of attacks. We've got the Ministry of Foreign Affairs first announcing that they have summoned top Ukrainian diplomat, and they have condemned that attack as quote-unquote what they have called a violation of United Nations charter. Also, we know that in another statement coming from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, they said that Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi had phone conversation with the EU foreign policy chief in that regard, and there he has called for the international community as well as the UN Security Council to respond to that attack, to condemn it. And of course, another separate statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, not only just condemning it, but also warning about a sort of hostile approach that the Ukrainians are taking pertaining to Iran. All in all, we know that it is critically important, contextually speaking, for Iran, as it is dealing with a naval blockade by the Americans by itself, putting a lot of pressure on the maritime trade of the country.
Yeah. So here's the thing. People have to understand. They had no right to fire on that ship. That is a violation. You also have to remember, again, Ukraine is not a part of NATO. Even if they were, you had no right to fire upon an Iranian vessel. So again, this is a direct escalation. And I believe they're trying to get us into World War III. Let me go ahead and get into what Dropside News said here. The statement from Iran says it is a clear instant of an act of aggression. Everybody remember this, because I'm here to let you know. Let's all remember who started. A clear instance of an act of aggression that it said could further inflame the conflict. It noted that the attack had been explicitly acknowledged, of course, by Zelensky, stating that Iran has had no involvement in the Russia-Ukraine war. The ministry said the strike showed Ukraine had committed an international violation and dangerously widened the conflict. So this is where we're at now. That was intentional. I do want to remind you of something that Roger Waters from Pink Floyd said. He's been very vocal about this war. And he breaks down again, how a lot of times corporate media, they don't mention the Minsk Accords. They don't talk about, the NATO coup in 2014. Listen to this.
You and Antony Blinken and Victoria Nuland and Jake Sullivan and the rest of the warmongering neocons at the heart of government here in Washington, along with the vassal states in NATO, are the principal provocateurs that I mentioned. I am not apologizing for Mr. Putin, you understand, but just to glance fleetingly back at the history of the last 30 years or so, you could have done better. You could have followed President Gorbachev's lead in 1989. You could have kept Secretary of State Baker's promise not to advance NATO 1 yard closer to the Russian border than the eastern extremities of a reunited Germany. You could have responded to President Putin's overtures in his famous 10th of February 2007 speech at the Security Conference in Munich, and shepherded us all towards a much, much safer Europe. Or, in 2008, you could have chosen not to expand NATO eastwards. Or, in 2014, you could have refrained from engineering the illegal Maidan coup d'etat in Ukraine. Or, in 2019, you could have supported the Minsk Accords. Now we're told by Angela Merkel they were just a ruse to buy time to arm Ukraine for the war that you were engineering.
Give it up for Roger Waters. Yeah. People do forget this. I remember this because I remember the Berlin Wall. The whole idea, like the fall of the Berlin Wall, was that NATO was not supposed to expand further to the east after that fall of the Berlin Wall. And NATO has been doing it anyway, right? So, yes, it's true. Russia invaded Ukraine. At the same time, it is also true that Russia was also provoked by NATO. NATO has been provoking them for years. And I told you, pay attention. They always go after the countries that are doing things for the people, right? The countries that might have some of these universal policies, which Russia also has. Russia has clean food. They don't have GMOs in their damn food like we do. You guys have probably seen the videos of their public transportation, their public transit systems compared to ours in the United States. There's a reason why their stuff looks more modern, it works more efficiently, and they have clean food because they don't have all that NATO ilk as a part of their country. So everybody remember, that's why they go after Cuba. That's why they go after Russia. That's why they go after China. They go after the countries that chose to prioritize their people instead of prioritizing war, right? So we have a problem here because now things are really expanding even further in Iran. Donald Trump is saying that we'll try to pull back in some way, but we could just go hit them hard. This leads us into what just happened also in Saudi Arabia. Check this out.
A brief lull for now. After 2 weeks of trading lethal strikes back and forth overnight, U.S. and Iranian weapons were quiet, but tensions remain high in the region. U.S. Central Command saying it boarded a ship Sunday in the Arabian Sea on suspicion of violating the U.S. blockade of Iran, before ultimately letting that ship go. And in the nearby Red Sea, the Houthi rebels, Iran's proxy group in Yemen, opening up a new front, targeting Saudi oil exports, claiming they hit state-run oil operations in the Saudi kingdom. This week declaring a maritime blockade on Saudi-linked shipping in the Red Sea's Bab el-Mandeb Strait, a vital trade route. Saudi Arabia releasing this video of what it says are their patrols.
We'll fast forward through here because I know how YouTube can be about those. But I just wanted to show you what Trump just said recently.
Trump meeting with his national security team on Friday to discuss next steps, saying this week he's considering a massive attack on Iran.
There's two ways. I mean, it's you can just keep doing exactly what we're doing and take them apart piece by piece. We could do it in a more rapid fashion, which we might do, or we can negotiate with them, which we're also doing right now.
This all comes just days before Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu heads to the White House Tuesday to meet with President Trump. Their first face-to-face since his February visit, where he argued for the joint U.S.-Israeli attacks on Iran days before the start of the war.
So Netanyahu will be here apparently Tuesday. Jesus Christ. The fact that this guy just continue to come back into the country like this is absolutely insane. But in terms of what Trump was saying about negotiation, I don't see that as a possibility. Iran is pissed and they have every right to be. But the U.S. is in this position where they're kind of stuck. And now they're in dealing with a deeper problem. And that's what's happening between Ansar Allah and Saudi Arabia. And I wanted to show you this right here. Saudi Arabia made another fatal mistake. Saudi Arabia bombed the port of Hadida city in Yemen. And so Yemen did respond. I'm going to show you, this was the strike from Saudi Arabia in Yemen. Yeah, so that's Saudi Arabia striking Yemen there. And the response from Yemen has been holy shit. Yemen destroyed port of Yanbu and bombs the Aramco oil tanker in Saudi Arabia. I'll tell you a little bit about this oil tanker, by the way. Like, this Aramco oil tanker is freaking massive. I remember it was like a couple years ago or so when Saudi Arabia, they announced this like on CNBC or something like that. But it's huge, and they pissed off Ansar Allah. That's a direct hit. That's a direct hit right there. AJ said 300 million loss. Yeah, like I remember when this place was announced, when they was like, oh, Saudi Arabia has Aramco. This is going to be a big deal. So we're talking about a massive oil facility there in Saudi Arabia. Here's another one that you can see: missile and drone attack from Yemen to Saudi Arabia. So just so you guys can see this here. So again, that's Ansar Allah attacking Saudi Arabia. I told you a lot of shit piped off over the weekend, and I'm sorry for the language. I told you guys I wasn't going to cuss as much. This one is probably the most dramatic one. Again, large fire at Saudi Aramco storage facility. I told you guys, like, Ansar Allah, also known in the West as the Houthis, they do not play around. Yeah, that's the response from them. Now, just as a reminder, if you may have forgotten, remember the Houthis did announce that there was a blockade against Saudi Arabia at the Bab el-Mandab, which is the entry into the Red Sea. They issued that blockade against them a couple of days ago. Saudi Arabia decided to try to put, one of their ships through it anyway, and it was fired upon. They had already attacked 2 of Saudi Arabia's ships. So we talked about that, I think, just a day or 2 ago. And now you're seeing what's happening now. Like, that is a large oil facility there. And that is a huge impact for Saudi Arabia. Here's another one here. Yemen retaliated during the night by launching several ballistic missiles at Saudi Arabia's Aramco facility. Again, here's another angle that you can see during the day. I don't see any of this wrapping up anytime soon. And then we bring ourselves to this because I just wanted to show you what this is so that you know where Aramco came from. So let me just fast forward a little bit.
Looks to take a part of the company public. If that happens, it's set to be the largest IPO in history. Saudi Aramco was born in 1933 out of an agreement between Saudi Arabia and California-based oil company SoCal. This agreement, like many granted to big US and British oil companies at the time, gave it the exclusive right to explore and extract oil on Saudi territory. Originally called the California Arabian Standard Oil Company, it was renamed the Arabian American Oil Company in 1944, or as we now know it, by its acronym Aramco. For years, Aramco was run by a consortium of US oil companies, including the predecessors of Chevron, Texaco, and ExxonMobil. But following the creation of OPEC, Saudi Arabia and several other oil-producing countries began nationalizing their natural resources. By 1980, the Saudi government had completed its buyout of Aramco's assets, eventually creating the Saudi Arabian Oil Company in 1988. Saudi Aramco's main business is pumping oil and then selling it around the world to customers in places like Japan, the US, and China. Aramco.
Pause. So you see that? I just wanted you to see this part. We're not going to go through the whole history of it, but look at where they send the oil to, right? Japan, China, and of course, the United States. They send it to us too. So that's a big blow. That's a big blow. I would love to be a fly on the wall right now of the Oval Office, because this is not good. We are not good times here, and all of this could have been prevented if the US and Israel did not decide to strike Iran. We wouldn't even be here. You guys get that? We would not be here at all if they didn't decide to do that. When we say that, things just got real, I just want to remind you again, strange bedfellows, by bombing the oil, this is from Dmitry Lascaris, by bombing the oil infrastructure of the barbaric Saudi dictator, the Yemeni people have struck a blow for the victims of the Mossad agent and notorious pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Strange bedfellows, right? There's Jeffrey Epstein, and there is the Saudi crown prince. Not tell you all these people run in the same circle? It's the same damn people. So there you go. And you know how they said, like, they were trying to hide certain names in the Epstein files? They said some of those names we would never see. Part of me wonders if the Prince of Saudi Arabia is in the Epstein files. That could have been one of the names they were trying to hide. Now, at this point right now, Iran claims it destroyed 11 U.S. warplanes, helicopters on the ground during the recent conflict. 11. That brings the total, if I'm doing my math correctly, to around 43-ish since the start of all this. They've been destroying a lot of the U.S. planes, right? So Iran said on Saturday that its armed forces destroyed 11 U.S. warplanes and helicopters on the ground during the recent 15-day conflict with the U.S. By the way, guys, if you look to see like how much it costs to build some of those planes, I mean, they're really just throwing money down the drain. The U.S. is throwing money down the drain at this point. They're knocking all these things out. This is what Trump isn't telling, of course, people on Fox News. This is what he's not telling his supporters. Iran is destroying, look, the 515s, we talked about those, right? They're destroying U.S. aircraft back to back to back to back. So no, their military is not, obliterated. No, it's not, struggling at all. And Pete Hegseth and Donald Trump, they have all been kind of hiding this from Donald Trump's audience. So like if you supported Trump and let's say you only watch Fox News, they're not telling you this. That number right now should be roughly about 43 planes / drones that Iran has destroyed. And they're not telling people this because they got to keep the lie alive that Trump is hoping that Trump is telling them the truth. He's not. And then what makes things crazier is that you got this clown on Fox News just recently, and he's calling for the complete annihilation of Iran. Mr. Rosenberg.
It is inevitable that President Trump is going to have to do what he doesn't want to do, which is go in there with this massive all-out attack. There's no other way to stop this. There's no other way to win this war. So, again, he's trying to do the best he can. He's a very nice man. I love President Trump. He doesn't want people to die. He really doesn't. Okay, he's a nice man. But there's no other way to end this. Once you start this, Midnight Hammer was great. Epic Fury was great. Once you start this, there needs to be a finish. And the only finish is complete surrender by the Iranians. I hate to say it, but complete annihilation.
Well, we talked.
Did you hear what he just said? So he says complete surrender or complete annihilation. Surrender to what? You attack them. Why does Iran need to surrender to the U.S. and Israel when the U.S. and Israel attacked Iran? So we know that's not going to happen. So he's leaning in on the other part, which is complete annihilation. That means nuclear. That's what complete annihilation means. That means kill them all. That's why he started off with, well, Donald Trump doesn't want people to die. He's a really nice guy. By the way, if you keep having to say that, it's probably not true. If you keep having to tell people Trump's a really nice guy, it's probably obviously not true. If you keep having to tell people Trump doesn't want people to die, it's probably not true. So he's calling for the annihilation of all the people. This is where we're at now. That's absolutely sad.
Last time about this. And by the way, I agree. I love President Trump. I love his heart, I think, is really for peace. And he's always, I love that even now, this past week, he's still talking about peace and wanting to find and leaving that door open for negotiations.
The lies that they just tell you, I'm telling you guys, all of these people are actors. They really are. They're actors that did not make it in Hollywood. And this is as best as they could do. They got this seat on a couch on Fox News. Same thing with CNN. If you want peace, you don't continue to bomb these people. If you want peace and real negotiations, you would have actually tried to have some type of negotiation and not use that as a time to refuel. That's what Trump has been doing.
You say the only end is annihilation. Now, what if winning this war requires boots on the ground? I asked you that last time. That's not very popular with the American people. What is your response to that?
It's not popular with me either. Look, I'm not a parent of an Army person, a Marine person, so I'm very sensitive to that. Trust me. But look, we have the Army, we have the Marines for a reason. They're not there to shake your hand at the airport, Rachel, okay? They're there for a reason. Last I checked, we don't have a draft in this country. So these courageous men and women know exactly what they're signing up for. This is war. We don't want to see anybody die, but this is war. A war that started 47 years ago that they started. So, yes, I know the moral ground is to say, I don't want our kids to die. I feel the same way. But we got to win. Now, we can win maybe without putting boots on the ground. Maybe we can. I don't know. I'm not Jack Keane. I don't have that type of information. If we can do that, great. But if at some point it requires putting some boots on the ground to win this war, that's why they signed up. To fight for this country, to fight for President Trump, and to rid the world of evil animals like the Iranian regime.
Can I just ask,
So let me just say something here, okay? Once again, get out of the military if you can, and do not allow your children to join the military. Tell your kids not to join the U.S. military. He just made it very clear for you. He just basically proved my point as to why you should not join. And I say this as someone who came from a family of military people. They'll tell you the same thing today, too. Do not join the military. Don't do it. The conflating he has there where he said that I don't want anyone to die, but we got to win, so we may have to put boots on the ground. Boots on the ground isn't going to help you win. Those people are just going to get killed. That guy's a neocon Zionist. They're telling people this because they want you to think we actually have a chance. We don't. It's Iraq all over again. This is bullshit. It's a lie. And Fox News is still there trying to pedal away and just try to convince their audience that, because I posted a video earlier Sunday that showed Donald Trump's approval rating. And this war is killing his approval rating. But more importantly, what was interesting about that was there was a poll of independent voters and also the GOP leaning independent voters. And the majority of them are not in favor of him right now either. Turns out neocon and the days of war, bomb them all is actually not popular, especially with a lot of younger people. So this is crazy, guys. And Ukraine bombing an Iranian ship, things just got real. Things just got real. All right, let's go to some of the comments here. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Those are my CBI amendments. Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Cost of Iran and Iraq wars would have made sure every student graduated debt-free. See what I mean? How they spend the money? Thank you, Pseudo. OpenAI has proposed giving the U.S. government a 5% equity stake while they are $1 trillion in debt, too big to fail again. Thank you, Marlon. The Ashkenazis are from that region, genetically the same people as the Nazis, not totally Semitic. Thank you, Resurrect says America is energy independent, though. Maybe, and for now. I mean, it's just, thank you, AJ. Sab, look into the Vegas shooting. How is it tied to MBS and his uncle setting him for a hit squad? His uncle hotel only won in the hotel that day. Interesting. I'll have to check that out. Brenda says, I was in the same room with Donald Trump over 30 years ago. I walked out before he finished his talk. He was a jerk then, and he's a jerk now. Jerkity jerk jerk. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on to the next story. Please be sure to smash that like button if you haven't had a chance to do so, and answer that poll for me. Are we heading closer to World War III? Okie dokie. Let's go ahead and get into this next story. There was a White House Correspondents' Dinner just recently, and it's not looking good for Donald Trump. You know, there's this saying that the world is a stage, and I think you're going to see that. Well, first and foremost, a lot of people are calling this out. Glenn Greenwald said these media personalities pretend on TV to hate Trump as a fascist, racist, new Hitler, but they eagerly put on their finery to go to the White House to giggle with him, his closest aides. It's all theater. They're far more incestuous than adversarial. Now, this is Kirsten Welker. I think that's what we call, how you pronounce her first name, Kirsten. She is the host of Meet the Press. You know, the woman that's always so serious and she looks like this. Now, do you mean that you were going to put boots on the ground? That Kirsten? So here she is giggling it up with Stephen Miller. See, this is going to show you the world is a stage. So you see what I mean? Host of Meet the Press, who pretends so much to be against, Donald Trump when she interviewed him, to be against like the Trump machine. But she seems fine here, don't she? There they are giggling and laughing. So does everybody see that all these people are part of the same club? Okay, Kirsten Welker's in the pink. Here's Stephen Miller. These people are in the same club. And when you see them argue with each other on the news, on Meet the Press and all that kind of stuff, it's theater. The world is a stage. Everybody is playing their part. And that includes her too, Miss. Now, when you say that, do you mean you're going to put boots on the ground? It's a stage. Speaking of stages, didn't go too well for Donald Trump, though. We got to have some laughs, guys. Trump said he has no intention to leave the presidency. So he had a number of jokes that apparently just did not land too well.
Okay, but we are all doing good together. That's why tonight, to show just how much I care about the press, and I want to save your ratings, I'm pleased to announce my intention to, and this is somewhat of a scoop, my intention to run for a fourth term as president of the United States. I will be.
Why did he yell when he said that? Sorry, let's go back. Why did he go, my intention?
Scoop. My intention to run for a fourth term as president of the United States. I will be doing that. I will be having an official. In fact, I think I have. Yeah. I won Oof. 3 times. Now I'm going to do it again. Thank you. I'm going to do it. Should be easy. I'm getting very good at running for president. No.
Why are they clapping? Why are they clapping at that? Now, it was like joking around and stuff, but I don't know. I told you guys, I don't know if he's actually joking or not. I think Trump may try to do something.
I won 3 times, did very well the second time, by the way. It's a rigged election, but we don't have to talk about it. It's interesting when you come back and you do a good job like we did, and you don't care about it so much, but we do have to tighten up these elections because they really are in seriously bad shape.
There's more to go. We're going to have some laughs here. Something else that he mentioned here while he had on that Trump 2028 hat.
Serious note, I want to say once again, I just want to thank you all. It's been an interesting evening. I didn't really know what to expect, and it's far worse than I actually thought, but if you want to know that. But I didn't know exactly what to expect, and I've made a lot of friends tonight. I've made a lot of good friends tonight, probably made some enemies also, but it's been an experience that is something that we've all shared together because we're all in this room tonight because most of us went through a period of trauma from just a short while ago. And, some people said they wanted to come, but they were afraid to come, and you people weren't afraid to come. There were a lot of people that said, Jackie, they don't really, they didn't have the courage to come. And we don't want that to happen. And I'm sure it's not going to happen. We're going to do things. Again, I want to thank our law enforcement. Serious note, I want to say once again.
Yeah, just really, really bombing here. He tried. Here's another one where he told the audience that when he's gone, they're going to be broke.
He's tongue-tied. I cannot believe it. Oh, he's not going to be happy tomorrow. But you people have no idea how lucky you are. When I'm gone, you're all going to be broke. Your business model is going to be finished. No, it's true. When I'm not around, you're going to be broke. There's not going to be anybody to report on. Nobody gives a damn about anybody else.
Whew. You know who Trump reminds me of? Trump reminds me of that one uncle that has no filter. The one uncle that comes to Thanksgiving or family reunions that just says whatever he's thinking, has no filter. It's like sometimes you may be thinking certain things, but not to say it. That's who Trump reminds me of. No filter uncle.
The New York Times the other day had 5 stories about me. Before I got into politics, in my whole life, I had 7 front page stories. This is years of success. I think 6 were good, 1 was bad. I had 5 stories, 7, 5 good. Yeah, I had a total of 7 stories on the front page of the New York Times. That's not bad. Now I average about 3 or 4 a day, all different topics, all bad, everything bad. But here we are. Here we are. In fact, when I'm finished, I'm going right back to the Oval Office. So I have to be doing okay. But we are all doing good together. That's why tonight, to show just how much I care about
Woo! So it wouldn't have been me, right? Like he's sitting up there telling them, you're all going to be broke after me. It is interesting. A lot of times they do spend most of their time talking about him instead of other things. But just the way he said that. In this one, he brings in Barry Weiss. He starts talking about, bragging about her.
Press here in one place. I have to say that we're having an amazing load of accomplishments that the media never talks about. For example, under my administration, a once feared and powerful regime that relentlessly attacked America has finally been toppled. Their former leaders have been removed, and they're now being run by a gay dictator facing internal divisions. But I, for one, wish Barry Weiss all the best at CBS News.
Barry Weiss, who's just terrible, big time Zionist. So this is just, look at the expression on their faces.
She's a wonderful woman. Most of the press lives here in Washington, D.C., and you press here in one place. I have to say.
This crazy, guys. I don't know who that dictator is, who he's referring to there. He goes on to say that Chuck Schumer is Palestinian.
Invitation tonight. He was invited because, but I put it in a private text to Chuck Grassley. And Chuck saw him and he did a certain thing. And then one man that we had who should be here, he turned Palestinian. This was a man who was 100% for Israel. 100%. Chuck Schumer, crying Chuck. Remember, he cried at the airport over illegal immigrants. They were the fakest tears. There were people throwing water in his face. But now he's a proud, very proud Palestinian. In fact,
let's pause for a second. So again, when I say the world is a stage, so he knows that Chuck Schumer heavily takes money from the pro-Israel lobby still till this day. He knows that Chuck Schumer has been voting for all of those pro-Israel bills. And Donald Trump and Chuck Schumer go way back. Like they know each other from like the 70s. These are old school New Yorkers. Chuck and Trump are old school New Yorkers. They go way back. So he knows damn well that Chuck Schumer is not pro-Palestinian. He's actually one of the ones that's been holding up things actually changing in the Senate when it comes to, pushing back against Israel, not giving Israel more arms and stuff like that. So now he's just standing up there and he's just telling lies. You see how this works? But again, that's part of the game, because what he has to do is he has to convince you, the American people, hey, we're so much divided. Me and Chuck's a Palestinian and I'm da-da-da-da-da and all that kind of stuff, right? That's a part of the game. It's theater. Him and Chuck Schumer are both pro-Israel. They're both Zionists.
I'm going to send him a beautiful Palestinian outfit tomorrow so he can greet Bibi Netanyahu when he comes to town next week.
And then it's also insulting to Palestinians. I'm going to send him a Palestinian outfit. You see this? And look at the expression in the room.
Along with the mayor, who I'm sure would love to meet Bibi. They're not treating Bibi too well, but Chuck wanted to join us tonight, but he didn't want to be violating many parts of the Palestinian rules, regulations, and certainly he didn't want to violate Sharia law, his new founding. And all joking aside, I do think we need term limits.
People will actually watch that and believe it, though. They'll believe everything that Donald Trump just said right there. That's the sad part. That's the cult mentality, right? But you can look up the funding for yourself. He goes on to talk about J.B. Pritzker, who is a billionaire, just like Donald Trump. J.B. Pritzker is on the Democrat side. But listen to what he says here. Pay attention to the class issue.
Talk about, they got a whole table full of Republicans there. They're saying, no, don't mention my frickin' name, will you please? But we've had a lot of good names. But the Democrats are there to destroy wealth. And honestly, they've gone absolutely crazy. Gavin Newsom's not only a man who really wants to run for president, he's doing a bad job running a state. You can't have somebody like a J.B. Pritzker, who I understand is not president, sadly, but...
You see the expression in the room? People are like, what is he talking about? Let me pause here for just a second for something that he said, okay? First of all, no, it is not true that the Democratic Party wants to destroy wealth. No, the party does not want to destroy wealth. If that were the case, they wouldn't be taking money from the pro-Israel lobby, from big pharma, etc. So no, that's not the case. There are some members that are in the party that want the rich to pay their fair share. Respectfully so. But pay attention to what he said. He said they want to destroy wealth. So Donald Trump is there to protect the wealthy. That's why you ain't seen no damn Doge checks. That's why you don't see him doing anything for the economy, even though he ran on that. That's why things aren't getting better here in the U.S. for the American people, because Donald Trump is protecting his circle of friends, the billionaire class. He's been manipulating the market like every other weekend with the Iran war. When he does that, when he says, oh, we're going to do a ceasefire now. Oh, we're going to restart the war. Oh, we're going to do a ceasefire now. The timing is always the same. And he does that so his friends and his buddies like Jared Kushner and all of them, they can manipulate the stock market. They can do trades at that short. Every time he does that, they're making a lot of money. So see, this is the problem. He said, oh, they want to destroy wealth. He is going to protect his class interests.
You know, some people say, never use the fat word. And I don't. I would never call anybody fat. I have my own problems, you know? It's not like I'm perfect. Sir, in the back, don't call him a fat pig, okay? I'm sticking up for him. Don't call him you. You can't do that, sir. You can't call J.B. Pritzker a fat pig. Please. All right? Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Everyone's trying to figure out who is that guy? Does he exist? But the nice part is when you do that, the press can't get you. Because I'm defending a man who obviously has a problem. Actually, he's lost a lot of weight. I saw him recently. He lost quite a bit of weight. I don't know what the hell. He's got no chance, believe me. Anything he does, the family threw him out of the business. A number of other...
Dude, this take on comedy is really bad. I know, Scott was like, yikes. Yeah, his take here on comedy is really bad. But yeah, he's defending J.B. Pritzker because J.B. Pritzker is in the same class as him. They're both billionaires. So a couple of people did call in about this, and I think you guys need to hear it. It's pretty funny.
But as far as the correspondence dinner, I was laughing for the wrong reasons. It was so bad. You know, the world is watching this speech, and I'm embarrassed for America that we have somebody that is so bitter about being treated unfairly and complaining about all these hurts that are done to him because he's so wonderful and perfect in everything that he does. I just found it frustrating to listen to, but I listened to the whole thing. Okay. And I love the dinner, and thank you for taking my call.
Well, Scott, the president said it's a hot ticket, and when the president shows up, do you agree that no matter who the president is, it's a hot ticket?
Oh, it is. And, you know, the respect for the office is always there. It doesn't mean that you have to totally believe everything that the person that holds the office is telling the truth. But, yes, the respect for the president of the United States, no matter who's in there, has to be for the office holder. But at the same time, the free press is allowed to say, hey, the office holder is really not saying good things. He's making billions of dollars he's made more money as a president than the last 50 presidents combined have made.
But the problem is, and this caller who just doesn't seem to understand, the press has been making those statements, though. That's the thing. The press has said those things. It sounds like maybe you just didn't want to hear it. I mean, they've been talking about this for months, about he's making all this money, manipulating the market and all that kind of stuff.
While they're in office. And he's doing it all in the open. And our national debt is my biggest concern, and how it's going to affect our finances. And I wish there was more talk about that. Okay. Because
none of that's going to matter when shit really hits the fan. Like I said, it was just reported that the dollar has lost 30% of its purchasing power in 2026. So you talking about the debt. We got a lot more to talk about and to get into, guys. A lot more to get into. This one, I think, was a Republican caller, and they talked about how they thought it was terrible.
Right. We'll go to Jerry in Oceanside, California, Republican. Jerry, are you there?
I am here. Thank you. Yeah, I would say a couple of things. Number one, the whole program, I was glad I was able to watch the whole thing from beginning to end, because it was transformational in many, many ways. But the thing I would say is the medalist was great. I thought the awards were great and reflected, you know, what the freedoms we have that were described. I thought the president was terrible. I was disappointed that here he is representing, you know, the United States as a president. Well, he is a convicted felon. So here he is. But it reflects just the same way he is when he's in the news, when he's talking, whether it's here or dignitaries in other countries. He treats everybody the same way. And it's all about him. He hasn't changed, and he's not going to change. So I'm glad that you put the show on. I thought it was fantastic. But, you know, him doing people a favor and showing up and treating the audience like that was despicable. but it's the same way he treats everybody all the time.
Oh, right.
Well, I mean, it's not like Trump became a new person overnight, you know? So the thing is this, it was embarrassing. It really was. And people are talking about how he said, you know, that he was going to run for a fourth term and he put on that hat that said 2028 and stuff like that. I mean, I don't put it past him to try to do something like that. I just really don't. You know, what was weird to me, though, was the number of people that applauded that. That was strange. I'm like, why are you clapping? Because he said that. That's against the law. What I think this dinner really showed is that Trump is done. Like, he just go. Just go. Just go. Dude is done. And when you even have Republicans saying something about it, I think that tells you something. That was embarrassing. Embarrassing. Let's go to the next part for Type VNC, Eric. Let's go to some of the comments here. We have one more story for you. A question I think many of you have been wondering for quite some time. Thank you, Chris. No matter where he's at making speeches, the audience seems to be completely checked out. He just appears to be drunkenly rambling along. Yeah. Miss Jessica said he is not joking. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past him, guys. I would not put it past him. Thank you for the Rumble Rant, Mary. Please interview Ren Del Rosario for a city council in Hawaii. The Zio incumbent is trying to bankrupt farmers with fines and taxes, $50,000 if they don't report everything on their property. VoteAaron.com. I'll have to check that out. Thank you for that. Okay, one more story, ladies and gents. Do me a solid, smash that like, and answer that poll question if you haven't done so. All right. We still need to find out where is Mitch McConnell, and there have been recent updates that I think you guys need to hear. One of the things that's really interesting is that they don't seem to be allowing people to come into that part of the hospital / rehabilitation center where Mitch McConnell is staying. But there is one reporter in particular, Desiree Townsend. She's been really on this and has been covering this for quite some time since Mitch McConnell kind of, disappeared and zonked out. I want you to hear what she said, and then we're going to get into this update that came through via the Daily Beast about Mitch McConnell's staff.
Desiree Townsend here again outside of George Washington University Hospital for day 42, or 6 weeks exactly, of the medical miracle that is Mitch McConnell. At least that's what his staff wants us all to believe after the July 12th photo that was released of him allegedly here in the rehabilitation unit of GW Hospital in a button-down shirt in dad jeans. So it now begs the question, now that we are 2 weeks out from the release of that photo, why is he still in rehabilitation? So again, the official statements that are coming out of his office, and the office refusal last week to give any additional details. Instead, staffers caught on camera basically laughing at the questioning as to what is going on with his health, is leading me to believe that he is in some sort of incapacitated state, potentially on life support or in a vegetative state, and incapable of resigning. So
the big part is the staff just seems to be not responding, right? Like just checked out. Skylar said she is not buying it. Yeah, I mean, it's very telling here, ladies and gents. Notice they showed that picture of Mitch McConnell, which many of us pushed back on. We're like, yeah, right. I have another picture that they're alleging is Mitch McConnell as well, that I'm going to show you. But the big thing here is nobody has heard his voice. You don't see Mitch McConnell like talking on camera, anything like that. It just, all we've seen is a picture which was very suspect. And they're basically allowing Mitch McConnell to hold on to that seat. It's really wild, ladies and gents.
That is, I think, what the issue is right now. I think his office has largely been, I don't know if you want to call it trolling or essentially masking whatever has happened with his health, because the fact of the matter is, if any senator ends up in a coma or a vegetative state and they are incapable of resigning, there is no mechanism right now to remove them. So any senator, any member of Congress can get in a car accident. They can enter into a 6-month-long coma. Their families, their friends, their office, their constituents, the governor, no one is capable of resigning that member.
Sounds like the law needs to change, doesn't it? Doesn't it sound like there's a problem with the laws and the rules? So he's just holding on to a seat.
And so I think that is a real story here, is that it isn't just Mitch McConnell. If we had one member that got into a tragic accident, ended up on life support, or ended up in a coma for months, we have no constitutional way to remove that member. So that is the story that I think we all need to take very seriously and figure out how we can amend the Constitution, get something passed in the House and the Senate and ratified by the states to be able to remove an incapacitated member of Congress. Because
now she's speaking my language here. She's talking about a solution to fix this. Yes, there needs to be something that is passed. Someone can present a bill right now so that this does not happen again. Because what if it happens, again, to somebody else later down the line, or someone was in a car accident? And then, like she said, what if they're in a coma or whatever? You just can't just remove them. So obviously something with the law needs to change. So if it were me, if I were there in Congress, I would be working on a piece of legislation that would change that rule. This is absolutely ridiculous. How are you still holding on to a seat? You can't even vote.
Again, the rehabilitation story is not aligning with facts. The facts are that there was this EMS dispatch audio, multiple dispatchers, EMS, paramedics back and forth who were called to his home, Senator McConnell's address, for an unconscious person who was in cardiac arrest and needed CPR. The odds that the paramedics, the dispatcher, all of them got this wrong is nearly impossible, which leads me to believe that whatever that condition is that hospitalized him and has kept him here for 6 weeks was much more serious, or has put him in a state where he is unable to resign himself. And now we have to figure out, how do we fix this moving forward?
Well, so one of the things Eric was saying is that the Senate can vote to remove Mitch McConnell. Eric was saying that you need 2/3 of the vote to remove him. I don't see the Senate trying to do that or anything. I mean, it's really weird to me. You would think the Democrats in the Senate would jump all over this, because check this out. This is the new picture that is going around now. And Mike Bale shared it. Another sketchy proof of life pic from Mitch. Hey, doctors and nurses, what's wrong with this photo? When did they start posting room numbers on the inside and hang charts on the side of the bed? So let's look at this picture together, shall we? Okay. Here's a room number right here. I think it looks like it says 412, room 412. But then we're going to go to another picture that's going to examine this a lot better. Because if you look above this guy's head with the glasses, there's another marker here that says room, but that doesn't say room 12. That looks like 411. Here's the bed chart right here on the side of the bed that he was referring to. But the big thing I noticed in this picture is Mitch McConnell just happens to have on the exact same shirt that he had on in that previous picture that we saw that we were pushing back on, right? And again, how is it that Mitch McConnell's face looks younger? Okay, I showed you previous pictures of what Mitch McConnell looked like before he was, incapacitated. Okay, so now all of a sudden, Mitch McConnell's wrinkles are gone. His skin looks smoother. He looks younger. No, it doesn't make any sense. Mitch McConnell's hair also did not look like that. before he was, incapacitated and no longer, able to go to the Senate. So let's go to debunk this picture. Here are all the inconsistencies in this photo, this new one of Mitch McConnell. Okay, so the first one here. This is where I was telling you about the room number. There are 2 room numbers listed in this picture. This one right here says 412. The one above his head says 411. Is it 412 or is it room 411? The other thing here, she pointed to, I think this is hand sanitizer. Let me come back up here because she said something about that. Duplicate hand sanitizers. Duplicate. One here by the door and one over here by the curtain. Hope you guys can see my little cursor there. The clipboard right here on the side of the bed, she's saying no longer in use. And honestly, I haven't seen that in a long time. The clipboards by the side of the bed. So that's another one. Also, why is he wearing the exact same shirt that he had on in the previous picture? Right? So that is also really weird. So guys, it to me is just, it's so weird. It's so weird. Like Mitch McConnell's skin did not look like that at all. So Senator Shelley Capito, I want you to hear what she said when she was questioned about where is Mitch McConnell.
Hey, how are you?
Do you have any idea what's going on with McConnell? What his condition is right now? Have you heard an update?
I think obviously the public information that I have is that Senator McConnell is recovering and is healing and is in a rehabilitation hospital. That's what's been reported. I talked with somebody yesterday who visited him and said that he's clear-minded and he just needs to get stronger.
Do you plan to visit him?
I might wait until he asks, for visitors. I think, anybody who's been in the hospital or in a rehab facility being visited, I think is a pretty sensitive topic.
Guys, don't you think it's weird? The governor of Kentucky, Andy Beshear, has not seen Mitch McConnell. He's still saying nothing about I don't know what's going on with Mitch McConnell. Have not heard physically from Mitch McConnell. And that's the governor of the state. And I think some of them in the Senate probably know more, but they were already told to be quiet about it. Like, check this out. Okay. Mitch McConnell aide drops new claims about vanished senator. So this one was just published on Saturday. This came out. Mitch McConnell aides have provided an update about his health that includes no photo or video evidence of the Republican senator himself. Goes on to say here, David Popp, a McConnell spokesman, claimed in a new statement to the Washington Post that McConnell was continuing to work on Senate business during his weeks-long hospitalization that dates back to June 14th. Guys, it's been over a month now. The senator continues to meet with staff regarding Senate and Kentucky business, including discussions on defense appropriations, foreign policy, the Farm Bill, constituent services, and constituent federal grant requests. As the senator continues to improve in rehab, we will be sure to keep you updated. Okay. Noticeably absent was any proof that McConnell is doing any of these things that his staff claims. Now, they're taking you back to that previous picture that we saw. Again, notice it's the same shirt, right? Okay. It goes on to say here, the lackluster update is keeping with a trend from McConnell's office, which remained silent about his health for several weeks after he was hospitalized. Let's go on down here. Where is Mitch McConnell? McConnell's staff is led by Chief of Staff Terry Carmack, who receives an annual salary of $226,000 to preside over this PR disaster. His staff has repeatedly declined to provide further information on McConnell's state. It remains unclear when Mitch McConnell will return to work on Capitol Hill. The Daily Beast has reached out to his staff about a timeline and asked whether he will attend funeral services for the late Senator Lindsey Graham this week, but has not received a response. This is what Lindsey Graham looked like before he was hospitalized. So we're supposed to believe that he now looks younger. This is the big one, right? So the staff is keeping kind of hush about this. They're not responding. Other senators are saying, I don't know anything about McConnell's health. I know zero. I'm totally in the dark. And I certainly wish him and his family well. I do think that at a certain point, you have an obligation to your constituents and county to tell them what's going on. And then there was this that just happened, which is really strange. Mitch McConnell faces a scathing pre-death obituary in the largest home state newspaper. So this also just happened here. Now, a columnist in Kentucky's largest newspaper has just published what he called a pre-obituary of Senator Mitch McConnell. He is accusing the former Republican of dismantling civil rights protections he once championed and is enabling President Donald Trump despite privately calling him stupid and a despicable human being. Joseph Girth, a columnist for the Louisville Courier-Journal, wrote in a piece published on Wednesday that he decided to lay out his assessment of Mitch McConnell's career, even though the 84-year-old senator is still alive, rather than wait for an actual obituary. With McConnell allegedly on the mend, I'd figure I'd go ahead and tell you what I think about McConnell now when no one can complain. How dare you write that about a dead guy? That's what Girth said there. Girth said the idea was prompted by the death of longtime Republican Senator Lindsey Graham. Goes on to say here, in the column, Girth compared McConnell to former President Richard Nixon, writing that McConnell is every bit the detestable figure that Nixon was, but that unlike Nixon, McConnell never paid for his sins. Girth pointed out that McConnell's decision to block Obama's nomination of Merrick Garland to the Supreme Court in 2016, when the senator argued that voters should decide the appointment in a presidential election year, followed by his later push to confirm Amy Coney Barrett just 8 days before the 2020 White House vote. Girth wrote that the shift on the court destroyed the court's credibility to the American people, citing polling showing that the court's approval rating has fallen from 58% in 2020 to 36% in a recent survey. So now you got this guy who apparently wrote a pre-obituary for Mitch McConnell. I mean, it's just, and again, it's in the Kentucky largest state newspaper. I don't know where Mitch McConnell, fully is. I would imagine Mitch McConnell either died or Mitch McConnell is in a vegetable state. And that's why you're not seeing an actual video of Mitch McConnell. But the fact that this guy went ahead and wrote a pre-obituary, things just got real. It's crazy, guys. It's crazy. But his staff is covering up for quite a bit. His staff is not trying to give too much away. And they're not letting people in to that part of the hospital, that wing, to even go. They're hiding something. So I think a lot of this goes back to transparency. And if people wonder why more Americans distrust the government, this is why. Because the government is not transparent with the people. That's how we get here. I don't know. Maybe we'll hear something at some point. Lake Living said he's on a ventilator. That's probably the case. But they're killing me with these pictures. They're killing me with these pictures. Next time I turn around, someone say, oh, we got another picture with Mitch McConnell and da-da-da-da. Scott Jennings, who was defending Mitch McConnell recently, was just questioned, and they asked him, have you heard from Mitch McConnell? No, he hasn't. So come on. Come on, guys. Now, Thomas Massey did say he is not interested in running for that seat, but they're keeping that seat for a reason. They're holding on to that for a reason. And they've basically weekend at Bernie's Mitch McConnell. Crazy time, folks. Just a reminder, ladies and gents, just an announcement for you guys before Eric takes over here. Just want to remind you, we do have our back to school event donation, which is August 15th. So we are hosting back to school event. My Boston Mutual Aid chapter does this every year. And we are donating school supplies, and we're going to host games for students and provide them lunch as well. If you can donate, I would appreciate that. I'm just going to share the link. We do it via Spot Fund. I'll share it in the chat. And then the other thing I do want to do is some of you like to actually mail me items. I'll get the poll in a second, Corey. Some of you actually like to mail items and don't feel comfortable sending things electronically. And so I do want to give you that PO box address so that you can send me something in the mail if you prefer to do that. Let me just go to my page here because I know I shared it here. Hey, there we go. All right, let me just post this up for you guys. If you prefer to mail items, we let people do that too. So again, it's August 15th. So if you want to mail anything, you'll want to do that soon. Anything you send in the mail, we gave suggestions. Like, I would not veer away from this just because we do count the items. We put the items in the book bag. We got 100 book bags, and then we count how many glue sticks we need and all that type of stuff. So if you want to mail any supplies, you can mail kids' clothes, diapers, body wash, shampoos, toothpaste, toothbrushes, hairbrushes, combs, feminine pads. We request pads, not tampons. That was notated by homeless shelters, gave us that tip. And you can mail them to Sabrina Salvati, P.O. Box 15773 at Boston. Okay? So we have that P.O. box for people who want to mail items instead of doing the electronic thing via Spot Fund. So there you go. Thank you so much. If you do decide to send kids clothes, and I'm not trying to be picky, you guys, but it's just something that I think I should say. Please don't send any clothes that have holes in them. Thank you. Not trying to be mean. It's just that, can bar soap be sent instead of body wash? Yes. Yes. Not trying to be mean. It's just that, you know, I don't want to give people clothes that have holes in them. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's almost that time. It's crazy. I'm like, dude, I feel like summer is very quick here because like we have long winters. I know it's crazy. I'm already talking about back to school because the kids here don't go back to school until after Labor Day. But we try to do this in August so that the parents don't already go out to like start to try to get these supplies because they're asking for a lot nowadays. Like when I was growing up, we didn't have to get like headphones, but they require the kids to get headphones now, at least here in Boston. So a lot of things have changed. A lot of things have changed. Let's get that poll. Hey, are we getting closer to World War III? All right, 75% said hell yes, 6% said hell no, and 19% said I am not sure. All right, interesting. What's this, Gwendolyn? What about a wish list that we can buy supplies and it is sent to you automatically? I had talked to Kate. I know Kate and Charlie, we talked about that before. I think last time we tried to do like the wish list and it didn't work out well. Maybe, I can sit down and talk to them about that again, but for this event, probably not because it's getting closer to time. But we tried to do a wish list one time before with Amazon and it, for whatever reason, people didn't take to it, but I think it's might be a similar thing where some people who don't feel comfortable donating like electronically on Spot Fund or GoFundMe may also not feel comfortable doing that wish list thing on Amazon, So we try to offer both. That way, people can do. Yeah, don't people buy clothes with holes? That is kind of funny. It's true, because they do have like jeans and stuff with holes in them. But anyway, thank you guys so much for that. And that's it for me this Sunday, man. That's it for me this Sunday. Eric's gonna come on. He's gonna round out the show.
We playing Where's Mitch?
Yeah.
But yeah, I think he's just in bad shape. And like he obviously can't get in front of a camera and say something.
Mm-hmm.
So there's something going on. You remember like in the Monty Python movie where they wheel out the barrel, bring out your dead. Bring out your dead. He's not dead yet. And then they help that along. But I mean those senators, I mean, there's so much power there. I think that the staff and power brokers and people around him just don't want to give that up. And so they're like, time for Mitch to retire. No.
Yep.
And you have the party politics and kind of there's probably Game of Thrones style infighting and all kinds of stuff happening.
It's crazy. One thing I want to add, guys, if you attended the mutual aid workshop on Saturday, I will be sending you the recorded video from that tomorrow. So look for that on Monday. You'll get that from me then.
And the Senate could vote to move him along, but how that goes.
It's just crazy, man. It's crazy. I mean, more people should be livid about this. That this guy is nowhere around. Someone just sends some photo, which is not proof of life. You can have a photo of someone. It doesn't mean that they're alive. It just
and being a senator or representative is supposed to be about representing the people. It's not supposed to make you into this super important person who, has to be protected at all costs.
That's right.
But that's where we're at with, who they represent. So there you go.
All right, guys, that's it for me. Eric's going to read the remaining super chats and close out the show. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.
Keep up that fight. Yes, we'll let Sabby move along with her Sunday a little ahead of time. Eric T. Red here coming from the background into the foreground for a few minutes to close things down. And maybe say a few words. Let's see. Yeah, we had we were talking about ending the Fed, the whole end the Fed, and I guess what we should be looking at, I would submit with something like the Fed is the Fed is a tool. It's a system, and maybe it's a good system. Maybe it could be a better system. The real key is who is it working for? Who is it representing? Whose interests is it operating in? If the Fed is a good system, it has good parts of it, then what we need to figure out is how to make it operate in the interest of the 99% instead of in the interest of the billionaire class. If it's inherently a bad system that only helps the billionaire class, then sure, let's end it and put it in favor of something new. The real key is, we have a monetary system. It needs management, right? Congress and the government creates money as needed to run the government. And the core issue is, how is that money being used? When that money gets created, is it going into the hands of the pockets of all the people, or for things that represent the will of all the people and help everyone? Or is that money getting created going into the hands of the billionaires and their pockets? And right now, much too much of it goes to the billionaires and the billionaire class. I connected to like wars, and one of the stories mentioned the Iran destroying U.S. helicopters and the military equipment. The war billionaires don't mind that, right? When war gets waged and equipment gets used and destroyed, then what does a government need to do? A government needs to get more equipment, replace the equipment. So it has to be paid for. It gets paid for by those federal dollars, and those doing so enriches the war billionaires. That's part of their whole system, their whole profit. So they don't mind the wars. They don't mind the equipment getting destroyed because it's all money for them. War's the racket. It's up to us, the 99%, to recognize that and to demand something better and demand an end to it. So for details how we can do that, how that can work, check out 11demands.org. There it is. There's things about what that looks like, what strategies are in there, and we like to talk about that around here. All right, I think we had some interesting super chats in the old queue. Let's see. Thanks for the super chat from Michael Cablon, who says, registered nurse, I agree 100%. And Stephanie here mentioned, why isn't he making an appearance? Yeah, it's clear that old Mitch is in bad shape. It shows you whose interests this whole system works in the interests of the people he's supposed to represent. He should step aside and make room for a new person who is capable of speaking, thinking, and going on into Congress and voting. Part of the whole game is that these people become these very important type of bigwig, arrogant people, and they have a lot of power, but they should also have a lot of humanity. They should also have a lot of humility, and it's up to us to demand that, to make that happen. It's going to need, all these things connect in. It's going to need, and Sabrina mentioned this during the earlier story, it's going to need a big movement based on clear demands, and we need to be working on how do we connect it all together. That's the big thing. So we need to connect together mutual aid, direct action, electoral politics behind and connected by that clear set of demands. If we can get a mass movement going, as in hundreds of thousands, millions of people pulling in the same direction, demanding the same things, big things could happen. If we can't get a lot of people together and on the same page, then not much is going to happen. That's really the stark reality of what we're up against and what the challenge is. Thanks for the super chat from Satra, who says, Georgia Congressman David Scott died. We could not have him removed from the Georgia primary election. He is dead, but still on the Dem primary ticket. Yeah, it can get into how those systems work, and the whole election systems can definitely be Byzantine, can definitely be complicated. It doesn't have to be that way. But that's certainly what we're dealing with. Thanks for the super chat. Michael Ewen says, why don't we have laws where the House Senate seats are automatically vacated if the representative misses 20 consecutive days when the chamber is in session? That sounds like a good law to me. Sounds like a good demand. It's not that there aren't ways to do this and make it better. It's about the political will. It's about whose interest the government is operating in. Right now, our government operates, like the vast majority, like 99% of the time, our government is working for the billionaires, for the beggar corporations, which are really the same thing. Those billionaires own them. What we do have on our side are our numbers, right? We are the 99%. If enough people decide that we need a better system, then we can make that happen and get there. But it's going to take us pulling together. And somebody tagged this one. Thank you, Nakia, for complimenting this shirt. I have my lovely wife picks out my shirts, and thank goodness for that, because you don't want to see what I'd wear if it were just my taste. All right, one more thing. Let's you want to give this? Should we give the what do you call it, the wheel a spin? Let's spin the wheel. You're asking, what does that mean? If you go up to 11 demands, there's there's what did I call? Oh, the demandomizer wheel, right? It's just a little thing, a little bit of fun on the site. And when you spin the demand divisor wheel, it picks an 11 demands article at random, and they're all in there. And we can just have a little fun and just see what it picks. Hopefully this thing's still working, right? There it goes. All right, what do we got? See if it's a good one. Settling for the lesser evil gets you the greater. Let's take a peek at that one. There it is. So this was, let's see. It's like the game goes like this. You have two political parties that at their core represent the interests of the top 0.1%. One is portrayed as the right-wing party, unapologetic and brazen about serving the billionaires, mega corporations, and the war machine. The other party is presented as the left-wing party, speaking in endless platitudes about doing right by the working class, but in the end, always being too, quote, weak or confused to get the job done. They are not weak, they are not confused, they are corrupt. Both parties are playing their roles. It's theater, effectively distracting the 99% away from their potential power. The role of the left-wing party is to gather up any and all reformist energy and direct it back into the duopoly, while delivering as few tangible gains as possible. Democrats promise health care, but give health insurance and then make it compulsory. Republicans feign outrage. Billionaires rake in the profits. Republicans thwart even the smallest progressive gains, like raising the federal minimum wage. Then Democrats make speeches about how terrible the Republicans are. The war machine rages on, delivering massive profits for the military-industrial complex. Yet the supposed anti-war Democrats and Republicans refuse something as basic as to exit from their warmongering parties. Any analysis that portrays the Democratic and Republican parties as significantly different is flawed. It's a game. The party that you think is less bad is simply enabling the back and forth. It's not about left and right. It's about up and down. As long as enough of us are rooting for one or the other, the corporate establishment wins. There is a way out of this mess. Step one is recognizing and breaking out of the uniparty game. Step two is getting clear about the demands of the 99%. The 11 demand strategy is about bringing people together and leveraging those demands into real change. So from the strategy, ask every candidate and representative, do you support these demands? What are you doing to enact them? If they're not on board with them, call them out as what they are, corrupt if they're not. Provide zero support for Democrats and Republicans until they start enacting the demands. That means no votes, no money, no praise. There's a kind of political militancy that we need today. Then provide all possible support and aid to third-party and independent candidates who embrace the demands. Any serious candidate should already be calling out our current representatives as corrupt. When roadblocks are encountered, intensify direct actions, things like protests, general strikes, sit-ins, boycotts. Make it your mission to educate everyone about MCDS. That's the Money Corruption Demand Solutions. Be relentless about pointing out the real source of our problems, the billionaires and the mega corporations. It's the top 0.1% versus the rest of us. That is the fight. So that's just a sample article from the 11 Demand Substack. Just one at random, but I think each one can give you something interesting. So if you're interested, feel free to go to 11demands.org and spin the wheel. Meanwhile, here, I think that is going to do us. There we go. That's going to do us for this Sunday. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. Thanks for watching Sabby and thanks for listening to me prattle on for a few minutes. Our next show should be Tuesday at 7 p.m. on our usual schedule. We'll see. There's always a ton of news coming in between then and there, and we'll have more interesting stories for you. Never know what'll come up, but please do tune in then. And until then, I'll say the usual. Have a good night. Keep up the fight, and we'll see you all next time. Thanks. Peace.